You know, people always talk about immigration like it's some kind of magic thing, right? Like, it's all positive, it's good for the economy, it helps the country, brings diversity, all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, maybe on paper it sounds all right. Charts, reports, statistics, they make it look nice. But have you actually seen what's happening on the ground? That's a different story, you know. And it's not really about the immigrants themselves. Not entirely. It's the system, the laws, the bureaucracy, the rules that keep changing, that apply differently to different people. That's the real problem. Because the truth is, people get frustrated. They see pressure everywhere. Housing shortages, stretched schools, long waiting lists for doctors, jobs that don't pay enough. And who do they blame? The immigrants. Easy target. Always visible. Always new. But if you look closer, it's the framework, the rules, the system that creates this pressure, not them. Look at salaries, for example. Most full-time workers in the UK make around £39,000 a year, roughly £766 a week, sometimes less, depending on where you live. London? Forget about it. Rent alone eats half of that sometimes. Midlands? Better, maybe. Northeast? Still tight. People are just trying to get by. And the system doesn't make it easy. Bureaucracy everywhere. Policies that don't make sense. Rules that shift while you're trying to figure them out. And politicians? They're up there talking about positives, about growth, diversity, contribution. But the day-to-day reality is harder than what the speeches make it seem. And then the housing. Look at it closely. Imagine a family trying to rent a flat in Birmingham. They go to the council, fill forms, show proof of income, references, bank statements. They wait weeks, months. And each council? Different rules. Some want 3 years of residency. Some want proof of benefits. Some say you can't even apply until you're registered. Meanwhile, new immigrant families arrive through different programs. They may have access to housing faster, depending on visas or resettlement programs. Locals see it. They feel pressure. Frustration grows. And the finger points at immigrants. Not the law, not the council, not the framework. The immigrants. Employment is similar. Big companies hire temporary visa holders, seasonal workers, contract staff. Immigrants fill the gaps. Locals sometimes can't compete. Wages stagnate. Frustration builds. And again, who's blamed? The workers. Not the law, not the company, not the policies shaping the system. Immigrants. Always. Even healthcare shows the same story. Appointments, forms, eligibility rules, waiting lists, different councils, different programs, different criteria. Some immigrant families get access faster. Some programs are targeted. Locals see it, feel stressed, frustrated. And the blame? Again, the visible target, the newcomers. But if you look closer, it's the system creating the tension, not the people. And schools, class sizes, funding, eligibility for support programs, teachers stretched, parents stressed, kids struggling. People see pressure building. And who do they blame? Immigrants. But it's the framework, the funding allocations, the rules about who gets what and where, and the law itself. It's constantly changing. Rules for housing, work permits, visas, benefits. Some laws trap people in temporary statuses. Some make people dependent on approvals that can take months. Forms lost, documents rejected, rules shifting mid-process. And locals see newcomers navigating these rules differently. Frustration builds. misunderstanding builds. And again, the finger points at immigrants. But it's the law, the rules, the framework that's really shaping everything. And if you look internationally, you see the same story, but also how things can work better.
Take Canada, for example. People always say Canada is the perfect immigration example. In 2020, Canada accepted over 400,000 immigrants through programs like Express Entry. Immigrants fill critical jobs in IT, healthcare, construction, GDP grows. On paper, it's perfect. But even Canada faced challenges. Housing shortages appeared because the supply of homes didn't keep pace with the influx. Rents went up. Services were stretched. And that's the point. It's not immigrants causing problems. It's planning, infrastructure, and laws not matching the scale of immigration. If you ignore the framework, even successful programs create pressure. Germany shows a slightly different story. Between 2015 to 2020, Germany welcomed over 1 million refugees. By 2023, 65% were employed or in training programs. Many filled gaps in healthcare, manufacturing, logistics. Local unemployment didn't rise. It slightly declined in areas with integration programs. But cities with high refugee inflow faced school overcrowding and housing strain. Once again, it's not immigrants causing harm. It's the framework and planning that determine whether the system handles the influx well. Australia uses a targeted approach. Their skilled migration program brings in workers for healthcare, IT, and engineering shortages. In 2021 to 2022, immigrants filled roles where there was real demand. Productivity rose. Median wages increased in those sectors. But urban planning didn't always keep pace, and some cities struggled with housing affordability. Immigrants helped the economy, yes, but only when combined with proper planning and legal frameworks. And that's exactly the lesson for the UK. The problem isn't immigrants, it's the system, the rules, the bureaucracy, the planning. Housing, schools, healthcare, jobs, they all depend on frameworks. When planning and laws are weak, pressure builds, frustration rises, and people point fingers at the visible targets, the newcomers. Politicians amplify it. They talk about immigration positives or challenges without addressing the law itself. Media headlines push simple narratives. Immigrants take jobs. Immigrants strain the NHS. Immigrants overcrowd schools. People read it, talk about it, feel stressed, frustrated, and the finger keeps pointing at the wrong target. Meanwhile, the framework, the bureaucracy, and the laws remain invisible. So what's the solution? Transparency, standardized laws, clear rules for housing, healthcare, employment, schools, targeted frameworks that plan for influxes rather than reacting after the fact, citizen awareness, community education, advocacy that focuses on the root cause, not the visible target. For example, housing. Councils could provide clear guides on eligibility, waiting lists, and allocations. Employment. Equal pay laws and transparency in hiring, ensuring everyone, locals and newcomers, benefits. Healthcare. Standardized access across councils and regions, reducing frustration. Schools. Fair funding frameworks and clarity in support programs. And the lesson internationally? Canada, Germany, Australia, they all show that immigration works when frameworks are solid. Immigrants fill gaps, contribute to growth, support services, and improve economies. But if the system isn't prepared, pressure builds. Housing shortages, school strain, healthcare queues, frustration, misplaced blame. So here's the takeaway. Immigrants aren't the problem. The law, the bureaucracy, the planning, the framework. That's the real problem. And if we want things to improve, the finger has to point there. Fix the framework. Improve planning. Standardize rules. Make systems transparent. Ensure everyone, locals and newcomers alike, can live, work, and thrive without unnecessary stress. Because until that happens, the chaos, frustration, and misdirected blame will keep repeating itself. Immigrants aren't taking over, they're just navigating the system. The real work is in fixing the system itself. That's where attention, advocacy, and energy should go.